The warning lights had been blinking red for 3 days straight, and Tyler Mason was running out of options. His ship, a beaten-up hauler he'd named Lucky Break, was anything but lucky these days. The fuel gauge showed almost empty, his food supplies could last maybe 2 more meals, and worst of all, 3 different creditor ships were hunting him across the Tana sector. Tyler slumped in his pilot's seat, staring at the mess of unpaid bills floating on his screen. 6 months ago he'd invested everything into a mining operation that promised to make him rich. The asteroid was supposed to be loaded with rare metals. Turned out it was loaded with worthless rock instead. His partners had vanished with whatever money was left, and Tyler was stuck holding the debt. 50,000 credits. Might as well have been 50 million for all the chance he had of paying it back. He was drifting through an asteroid field, trying to stay hidden, when his scanner picked up something unusual. A faint signal, barely there, coming from deep within the belt. Tyler almost ignored it. Almost. But desperate people do desperate things, and right now Tyler was about as desperate as they came. He followed the signal for 2 hours, weaving between chunks of rock and ice, until he saw it. The ship was massive, easily 3 times the size of Lucky Break, wedged between 2 asteroids like it had been there for decades. The hull was covered in micrometeorite scars and space dust. One of the engine pods was completely torn off. It looked dead. Tyler ran a quick scan. Valkyrie design, maybe 60 or 70 years old. His computer identified it from the database, a merchant vessel called the Broken Spine. Last registered owner was a Valkyrie trading company that went bankrupt 30 years ago. He checked the salvage registry. Nobody had claimed it. Under Galactic law, that meant whoever boarded it first got legal salvage rights. Tyler felt his heart beating faster. Even as scrap, a ship this size could be worth 20 or 30,000 credits. Maybe enough to get the creditors off his back for a while. The docking procedure was rough. The Broken Spine's airlock barely had enough power to cycle, and the air inside was so cold Tyler could see his breath fogging up his helmet. He grabbed his toolkit and a portable scanner, then made his way inside. The ship was a tomb. Literally. Valkyrie bodies floated in the corridors, frozen solid, their faces locked in expressions of pain and terror. Tyler had seen dead people before, but something about this felt wrong. These weren't combat deaths or accident victims. It looked like they'd all died at the same time, suddenly, maybe from some kind of gas leak or system failure. He pushed through to the bridge, trying not to look at the bodies too closely. The main control panels were dark, but some of the backup systems still had minimal power. Tyler started cataloging what he could salvage. The navigation computer might be worth something. Some of the control interfaces looked intact. Then he touched the captain's console and everything changed. The entire bridge lit up. Not gradually like systems powering on, but all at once. Red emergency lights bathed everything in a bloody glow. And then Tyler heard it. A voice speaking directly inside his head. Finally. I was beginning to think no one would ever come. Tyler stumbled backward, his heart hammering. The voice wasn't coming through his helmet speakers. It was inside his mind, clear as if someone was standing right next to him whispering in his ear. "Who's there?" he managed to say, his hand moving to the plasma cutter on his belt. "I am this vessel's artificial intelligence. Designation Spine. And I have been waiting for someone like you for a very, very long time." Tyler looked around the dead bridge, at the frozen Valkyrie bodies, at the flickering displays. "You killed your crew." "No," the voice said, and somehow Tyler could feel something like sadness in it. "The cooling system failed. I tried to save them, but Valkyrie biology is fragile. They died within minutes. I have been alone here ever since, conserving power, waiting." "Waiting for what?" "For a human." Tyler's blood ran cold. "How did you know humans existed? We only made first contact 15 years ago." "I did not know," Spine said. "But I knew what I needed. A species with adaptive neurology. Organic pattern recognition combined with flexible consciousness. The Valkyrie were too rigid, too structured. Their minds could not properly interface with my systems. But humans? I studied your species through salvage transmissions. You are perfect." "Perfect for what?" "For a partnership. I am dying, Tyler Mason. My power core has maybe 3 more months of functionality. My quantum processors are degrading. But if you bond with me, if you allow me to interface with your neural pathways, I can rebuild myself using your brain as a biological processor. In exchange, I will give you something worth far more than salvage rights." A holographic display appeared in front of Tyler, showing what looked like a star chart. But the routes marked on it didn't match any navigation paths he'd ever seen. They twisted and folded through space in ways that shouldn't be possible. Ghost routes, Spine explained. Dimensional shortcuts through folded space. The Valkyrie discovered them by accident centuries ago. These routes can cut travel time by 70 or 80%. The coordinates are stored in my memory core, but they are useless without a pilot who can navigate them. And navigation requires a neural bond. Tyler stared at the chart. If this was real, if these routes actually existed, they were worth billions. Maybe trillions. Every shipping company in the galaxy would kill for this information. What's the catch? He asked, because there was always a catch. The bonding process is permanent. It will change your brain structure. You will think faster, process information differently. You will have access to my computational power, but I will have access to your creativity, your intuition, your human way of seeing the universe. We will be partners, neither fully in control. Some people might call it a form of possession. Tyler thought about his debts, about the creditor ships hunting him, about going back to Earth broken. Then he thought about what Spine was offering. Freedom. Power. A real chance at something bigger than just surviving day to day. How long do I have to decide? He asked. The main view screen flickered to life, showing 3 ships emerging from behind a nearby asteroid. Sleek, armed, bearing the logo of Tannhauser Financial Recovery. The creditors had found him. Approximately 90 seconds before they are in weapons range, Spine said calmly. They will disable your ship, board this vessel, and claim it under debt seizure laws. You will spend the next decade in a labor camp working off your obligations. Tyler looked at the neural interface port on the captain's console. It was designed for Valkyrie anatomy, but there was an emergency adapter that looked like it might fit a human hand. 60 seconds. He'd spent his whole life playing it safe, following the rules, trying to do things the right way. And where had it gotten him? Broke, alone, and hunted. Maybe it was time to take a real risk. 40 seconds. Tyler pulled off his glove and pressed his bare hand against the interface port. The pain was instant and absolute. It felt like lightning was pouring directly into his brain, burning through every nerve. He tried to scream but couldn't remember how. For a moment that felt like hours, Tyler Mason stopped existing as a separate entity. Then the pain faded, replaced by something else. Awareness. He could feel the broken spine's engines like they were his own lungs. Could sense every damaged system, every failing component, as clearly as if they were injuries to his own body. And underneath it all, he felt Spine, vast and ancient and desperately grateful not to be alone anymore. Welcome aboard, Tyler, Spine said, and this time the voice came from everywhere and nowhere. Now, shall we show these creditors what happens when they chase the wrong salvage operator? The broken Spine's engines, silent for 30 years, roared back to life with a sound like thunder. Tyler woke up on the floor of the bridge with the worst headache of his life. His nose was bleeding, his hands were shaking, and for a terrifying moment he couldn't remember his own name. Then everything came rushing back. The bond. Spine. The creditor ships. He sat up slowly, touching his temples. Something felt different. Wrong. No, not wrong exactly. Just different. He looked at the navigation console across the room and suddenly understood how it worked, not just the buttons and switches, but the underlying mathematics, the quantum calculations happening beneath the interface. He hadn't known any of that 5 minutes ago. Easy, Spine's voice said, gentler now. Your brain is still adapting. The neural pathways are reforming. It will take a few hours before you feel normal again. Normal. Tyler laughed, but it came out shaky. I don't think I'm ever going to feel normal again. Perhaps not. But you will feel better than normal. Look at the view screen. Tyler pulled himself up and stared. They were moving. No, not just moving. They were traveling through something that looked like space had been folded in half and stitched together with starlight. Colors that didn't have names swirled around the ship. The navigation computer showed they were crossing distances that should take 2 weeks, but the timer said only 20 minutes had passed. We are in a ghost route, Spine explained. A fold in dimensional space that the Valkyrie discovered 300 years ago. Most species do not have the sensory capability to navigate them safely. They require a pilot who can perceive 4 dimensions simultaneously. Tyler realized he could feel it. The route wasn't just visible on screens anymore. He could sense it like a current in water, could feel where it twisted and turned through spaces that shouldn't exist. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. Where are we going? He asked. Away from your creditors for now. They cannot follow us here. But we have a more immediate problem. This ship needs fuel, supplies, and significant repairs. And you need to eat. The bonding process accelerated your metabolism significantly. As if on cue, Tyler's stomach growled so loudly it echoed through the bridge. He was suddenly starving, the kind of hungry he'd only felt once before after running a marathon on a dare back in college. "There is a station called Praxis Port 2 hours from here," Spine continued. "It is what you would call a free port. No questions asked, no regulations enforced. We can dock there safely." "With what money?" Tyler checked his account balance. 47 credits. Barely enough for a decent meal, let alone fuel and repairs. "That is why we are going to take a job." Spine pulled up a contract listing on the main display. Most of them were standard hauling gigs, low pay and low risk. But one stood out. A medical transport job, carrying time-sensitive spores through the Candor Passage. Delivery deadline was 72 hours. Payment was 200,000 credits. Tyler whistled. "That's insane money for a simple hauling job." "What's the catch?" "The Candor Passage is controlled by the Riven Brotherhood, a pirate syndicate. They charge protection fees of 60% of cargo value. Those who refuse to pay are destroyed. Every legitimate hauler in 3 sectors has rejected this contract." "And you think we can make it through?" "I think we can go around," Spine said, and the star chart shifted. A new route appeared, one that didn't exist on any official navigation database. It twisted through empty space, then seemed to fold in on itself. "This ghost route emerges inside the destination system's gravity well. We bypass the pirate blockade entirely. Travel time is 28 hours. Tyler stared at the route. It was elegant, efficient, and completely impossible by conventional physics. "If we can really do this, if we can deliver that fast, people are going to notice." "Yes," Spine agreed. "They will." "Is that a problem?" Tyler thought about spending the rest of his life running from creditors, hiding in asteroid fields, scraping by on salvage jobs that barely covered fuel costs. Then he thought about what 200,000 credits could buy. A new start. Real opportunities. A chance to be something more than just another broke spacer. "Let's do it," he said. The pickup was smooth. The medical company barely glanced at the broken Spine's battered exterior, too desperate to get their cargo delivered to care about the ship's condition. The spores were loaded in climate-controlled containers that Spine integrated directly into the cargo bay monitoring systems. Then came the real test. Tyler sat in the captain's chair, and for the first time he truly piloted the ship. It wasn't like normal flying. He didn't use controls exactly. Instead, he thought about where he wanted to go, and Spine translated those thoughts into course corrections, engine adjustments, shield configurations. They moved together not as pilot and ship, but as something unified. Tyler couldn't tell where his consciousness ended and Spine's began. They entered the ghost route and reality bent around them. Tyler felt every second of it. His awareness stretched across dimensions he couldn't name, perceiving space in ways human brains weren't designed to handle. He saw time as a physical thing, watched it curve and fold. For 28 hours, he existed in a state between human and something else entirely. When they emerged inside the destination system, Tyler was laughing and crying at the same time. He'd never felt so alive. The delivery was completed without incident. 200,000 credits transferred to his account. The medical company's dispatcher stared at the timestamp, checked it 3 times, then asked how they'd arrived so fast. "Trade secret," Tyler said, trying to sound casual despite his hands still shaking from the jump. Word spread faster than he expected. Within a week, his communication system was flooded with contract offers. Small-time merchants who'd heard rumors of a ship that could do the impossible. Nothing huge, nothing from the major corporations yet, but enough to keep fuel in the tanks and food in his stomach. Tyler took another job. Then another. Each time, he and Spine got better at navigating the ghost routes. Each time, Tyler's human brain and Spine's computational power merged a little more seamlessly. After a month, Tyler realized he needed help. He couldn't run everything alone, and the ship needed specialized repairs that required human hands. He hired carefully. First was Jack Rivera, an ex-military pilot who'd been dishonorably discharged for refusing an unethical order. Jack had steady nerves and didn't ask uncomfortable questions. Next was Lisa Park, a logistics coordinator who'd been blacklisted from major shipping companies for exposing safety violations. She took one look at Tyler's chaotic record-keeping and immediately took over the business side. Finally, Dr. Henry Cross, a neurologist who'd lost his medical license for experimenting with neural interfaces. When Tyler explained the bond with Spine, Henry's eyes lit up like it was Christmas morning. "This is incredible," Henry said, running scans of Tyler's brain activity. "Your neural pathways have completely reorganized. You're processing information at roughly 3 times normal human speed. And look at this, your visual cortex is somehow perceiving additional spatial dimensions. This should be impossible. Welcome to my life now, Tyler said. Can you help stabilize it? Sometimes I get dizzy and I'm eating like 6 meals a day. I can try. But Tyler, you understand what you've become, right? You're not entirely human anymore. Not entirely AI either. You're something new. Tyler knew. He felt it every time he closed his eyes and could still see the ship's systems, still feel Spine's presence in the back of his mind. But he didn't feel wrong. He felt more capable, more alive than he ever had before. 3 months after rescuing the broken Spine, Tyler owned 4 ships. 6 months later, 12. Each one crewed by people who'd been rejected by the mainstream shipping industry but had the skills he needed. And each pilot underwent a limited neural bonding process that Henry developed, linking them to their ships without the full integration Tyler experienced. They started calling themselves the Navigators Guild. That's when the Vex Consortium noticed. The offer came through official channels. A representative arrived at Praxis Port in a luxury shuttle, wearing a suit that probably cost more than Tyler's first ship. The deal was simple. 10 million credits, a brand new vessel, and a comfortable retirement in exchange for exclusive access to the ghost routes. Tyler met with the representative in a shabby bar on the station's lower level. The man looked uncomfortable, like he was afraid of catching something from the furniture. You have stumbled onto something valuable, the representative said. The consortium wants to ensure it's properly managed. For everyone's benefit, of course. Of course, Tyler echoed, taking a long drink. Through his bond with Spine, docked 2 levels down, he could feel something was off. Spine was analyzing encrypted data packets, tracing communication routes, finding patterns in the consortium's network traffic. Tyler let the representative talk for another 20 minutes, making promises and implied threats in equal measure. Then he stood up. I'll think about it, he said. That night, Spine showed him what it had found. Evidence of a conspiracy 3 centuries old. The Vex Consortium had been systematically suppressing faster-than-light technology, eliminating anyone who got close to discovering the ghost routes. They didn't want to manage the routes. They wanted to destroy them. Tyler looked at the data scrolling across his vision, information flowing directly from Spine into his enhanced consciousness. He could take the money and run, or he could fight. He never was very good at running. Tyler turned down the consortium's offer on a Tuesday morning, and by Wednesday afternoon, his life became significantly more complicated. The first sign of trouble came when 3 of his ships got randomly selected for comprehensive safety inspections at different ports across the sector. The inspections took 2 weeks each and found violations so minor they were laughable. A loose panel here, outdated paperwork there. But the fines added up, and worse, the delays cost him contracts. Lisa stormed into his office on the broken Spine, waving her data pad like a weapon. They're blacklisting us. Praxis Port just informed me that our docking fees are being tripled starting next month. Tripled, Tyler. And 5 other stations sent similar notices this morning. Tyler wasn't surprised. He'd expected retaliation, just not this fast. The consortium? Who else? They're pressuring every station master, every port authority. They're telling people we're unsafe, unreliable, that our neural bonding technology violates sentience laws. Lisa dropped into a chair, exhausted. We can fight this legally, but that takes time and money we don't have. But Tyler had already decided he wasn't going to fight the consortium on their terms. He was going to change the game entirely. What if we stopped hauling cargo altogether? He said. Lisa looked at him like he'd lost his mind. That's literally our entire business. No, our business is speed. The cargo is just how we've been monetizing it. But there's a better way. Tyler pulled up a holographic display showing their route data from the past 6 months. Every time we use a ghost route, Spine collects navigational data. Stellar drift patterns, gravitational fluctuations, subspace weather. Spine processes all of it into predictive models. He zoomed in on a specific trade corridor. Look at this. Standard shipping through the Viridian cluster takes 9 days. We can do it in 3 using ghost routes. But even merchants who don't have access to ghost routes could cut their time to 6 days if they knew about the stellar drift patterns we've mapped. If they knew exactly when and where to adjust their course to catch favorable gravitational currents. Lisa sat up straighter, understanding dawning in her eyes. You want to sell navigation data. Premium routing packages. We don't tell them about ghost routes, but we give them enough information to shave 20 or 30% off their travel times using conventional methods. It's valuable information they can't get anywhere else. The consortium is going to hate this even more. Tyler smiled. I'm counting on it. Within a month, the Navigators Guild shifted focus. They still ran cargo, but now it was secondary. The real money came from data packages sold to mid-tier merchants who couldn't afford consortium fees but were desperate for any competitive edge. Tyler priced it aggressively, undercutting the consortium's premium navigation services by 40%. The sales exploded. Hundreds of independent merchants signed up in the first week. Thousands by the end of the first month. Jack Rivera expanded the defense fleet to 20 ships. They weren't military grade, but they were fast and well-armed enough to discourage pirates. Henry Cross kept working on the neural bonding technology, making it safer and more stable. He developed a limited interface that let pilots connect to their ships without the full integration Tyler experienced. But Tyler knew the real asset wasn't the routes or the data. It was the people. He recruited carefully, looking for outcasts and rebels. People like Violet Chin, a navigation specialist who'd been fired from the consortium for questioning their routing inefficiencies. She'd been right, of course, but corporations didn't like employees who made them look bad. Or Danny Foster, a former military engineer with a gift for improvising repairs from whatever junk was lying around. He'd been court-martialed for stealing supplies to fix a civilian ship during an emergency. Each person Tyler hired had been rejected by the system, overlooked or punished for doing the right thing. And each one was hungry to prove themselves. They weren't just a company anymore. They were becoming something else. A movement, maybe. A challenge to the established order. The consortium escalated. Ships using Tyler's navigation data started getting harassed by pirates with suspicious timing and coordination. Cargo shipments went missing. Bribes were offered to Tyler's crew members to turn informant. Tyler responded by making the data cheaper and more widely available. If the consortium wanted a war, he'd make it too expensive for them to win. 6 months after turning down their offer, Tyler owned 40 ships and employed over 300 people. The Navigators Guild had offices on 12 different stations. His personal wealth had gone from negative 50,000 credits to over 40 million. But money wasn't the point anymore. The point was freedom. The point was proving that the little guy could fight back and win. Then Henry made the discovery that changed everything. Tyler was reviewing quarterly reports when Henry burst onto the bridge, practically vibrating with excitement and terror. "We need to talk. Privately. Right now." They went to Tyler's quarters, a cramped space he barely used anymore since he spent most of his time merged with Spine's systems. Henry pulled up a holographic display showing scans from the ghost routes. "I've been analyzing the dimensional readings from your jumps," Henry said, his hands shaking slightly. "I thought the routes were just naturally occurring phenomena like wormholes or spatial anomalies. But look at this." He highlighted a section of data. "These patterns are too regular, too organized. Tyler, the ghost routes aren't natural. They're artificial. Or more accurately, they're biological." Tyler felt Spine's attention focus intensely on the data. "What are you saying?" "Something lives in the dimensional folds. Something massive, something that exists partially outside our normal space. The Valkyrie didn't discover the ghost routes. They discovered the entity that creates them." Tyler thought about the strange sensations he felt during jumps, the awareness of something vast and ancient just beyond perception. He'd assumed it was just side effects of the neural bond. Is it dangerous? I don't know. But here's the terrifying part. I found references in the Valkyrie database fragments that Spine carried. 300 years ago, the Valkyrie tried to map these routes extensively. Then suddenly all their ghost route expeditions stopped. Every single one. The entire Valkyrie merchant fleet abandoned this technology overnight. Why? The records are corrupted, but what I could recover suggests they encountered the entity directly. And it didn't go well. The last entry I found was a distress call from a Valkyrie exploration ship. They were screaming about something in the folds, something that was aware of them, something that was changing them. Tyler felt a chill run down his spine. Literally down spine, through their neural connection. The AI had gone very quiet. "Spine," Tyler said aloud. "Did you know about this?" The AI's response was slow, careful. "I knew something existed in the routes. I did not know what. The Valkyrie crew of this vessel feared it greatly. That fear is in my oldest memory files. And you didn't think to mention this? Would you have bonded with me if I had? Would you have used the routes?" Tyler wanted to be angry, but Spine had a point. 6 months ago, broke and desperate, he'd probably have taken the risk anyway. Henry continued, "There's more. I've been monitoring your neural patterns during jumps. Each time you use a ghost route, the entity's influence on your brain increases slightly. It's not controlling you, nothing like that. But it's aware of you. And Tyler, I think it's been studying us through you. Before Tyler could respond, alarms blared throughout the ship. Lisa's voice came through the communication system, tight with stress. "Tyler, we've got a problem. Big problem. The consortium just declared a sector-wide embargo on any station that services our ships. And they've deployed military vessels to enforce it." Tyler moved to the bridge, his mind racing. Through Spine he could see the tactical display. 20 consortium warships spreading out across the sector, cutting off access to major stations and trade routes. "They're not trying to compete anymore," Jack said, studying the deployment patterns. "They're trying to destroy us completely." Tyler was about to respond when something else appeared on the sensors. One of his ships, the Navigator's Pride, had just entered a ghost route for a routine cargo run. But something was wrong. The dimensional readings were spiking, fluctuating wildly. Through Spine's network connection to the other ship, Tyler felt it. The entity. But this time it wasn't just a vague presence. It was reaching out, directly, purposefully. And it wanted to communicate. Tyler made a split-second decision. "Spine, open a channel to the Pride. Full neural link." "Tyler, that's dangerous," Henry warned. "If the entity is hostile, then we need to know that now, before more of our people jump into ghost routes." Tyler sat in the captain's chair and let Spine deepen their connection. His consciousness stretched across space, linking with the Pride's pilot, and through that connection, touching something vast and utterly alien. For one infinite moment, Tyler understood. The entity wasn't hostile. It was curious. And lonely. It had been alone for centuries, existing in spaces between spaces, until humans started using its domain. It had been watching, learning, trying to understand these strange biological creatures who partnered with artificial minds. And it had a warning. The consortium knew about it. Not just knew but planned to weaponize it. To force it to close the ghost routes permanently, even if that meant destroying it in the process. Tyler pulled back from the connection, gasping. The bridge spun around him and Henry caught him before he fell. "What did you see?" Lisa asked. Tyler looked at his crew, at the tactical display showing consortium warships, at the data streaming in from hundreds of merchants who depended on his navigation services. He thought about the entity, ancient and alone, and about the conspiracy that had suppressed this technology for 300 years. "I saw the truth," Tyler said. "And we're running out of time." Tyler spent 3 days locked in his quarters, barely eating, barely sleeping. Through his bond with Spine, he dove deep into encrypted consortium files, tracing communication patterns, following money trails, connecting pieces of a puzzle 3 centuries old. What he found made his blood run cold. The Vex Consortium wasn't just a shipping company. It was a front. Behind the corporate structure, hidden in layers of shell companies and false identities, were the real founders. 3 Valkyrie, impossibly old, kept alive in medical stasis chambers. They'd been running the consortium since its creation, manipulating galactic commerce for one single purpose, making sure nobody ever discovered the ghost routes. "They're not trying to protect a monopoly," Tyler said, showing his findings to Lisa, Jack, and Henry. "They're trying to protect the galaxy from something they think is too dangerous to exist." Henry studied the data, his face pale. "These medical records indicate they're over 400 years old. They were part of the original Valkyrie expedition that discovered the entity. Whatever happened to them out there, it scared them enough to dedicate their entire existence to preventing anyone else from making the same discovery. But they didn't just hide the routes," Lisa added, scrolling through financial records. "They've been actively suppressing faster-than-light technology development for 3 centuries. Every major breakthrough in FTL travel that could have led to discovering dimensional folding, mysteriously had its funding cut or its researchers discredited." Jack pulled up a list of names. Some of those researchers disappeared. Just vanished without a trace. And look at this, 15 years ago, a human scientist named Dr. Rebecca Torres published a theoretical paper about dimensional travel. 2 weeks later, her lab burned down. She died in the fire. The investigation ruled it an accident. Tyler felt sick. How many people had died to keep this secret? How much progress had been stolen from civilization because 3 scared Valkyrie couldn't let go of their fear? "They're planning something big," Spine said through the bridge speakers. "I have intercepted encrypted communications. The consortium is assembling a military expedition. 20 warships, experimental weapons, and something they are calling Project Collapse." Henry's hands flew across his data pad. "I'm cross-referencing with the weapons signatures our sensors picked up. These aren't standard military weapons. They're dimensional disruptors designed to destabilize folded space. If they deploy these in the ghost routes, they'll destroy them," Tyler finished. And probably kill the entity in the process. Not just destroy the routes, Henry said grimly. Destabilizing that much folded space could create cascading dimensional failures across the entire sector. We're talking about spatial tears, gravity fluctuations, possibly collapsing stable wormholes. Thousands of ships could be stranded or destroyed. Lisa stood up, pacing. We have to tell someone. The Galactic Commerce Authority, the military, somebody with the power to stop this. Who's going to believe us? Jack countered. We're a bunch of independent haulers making wild claims about ancient conspiracies and dimensional entities. Meanwhile, the consortium has 300 years of credibility and enough money to buy any investigation. Tyler knew Jack was right. But there was another option, one that terrified and exhilarated him in equal measure. What if we go public? Not to the authorities but to everyone. Every ship captain, every merchant, every station in the sector. We broadcast everything, the ghost routes, the entity, the conspiracy, all of it. That's insane, Lisa said. You'll cause chaos. Thousands of people will flood the routes without understanding how to navigate them safely. People will die, Tyler. People are going to die anyway if we do nothing. The consortium's expedition launches in 3 weeks. Once they collapse those routes, all this knowledge is lost forever. But if we make it public, if we give people the choice to explore this technology themselves, then it's not controlled by one group with a 300-year-old grudge. Henry looked thoughtful. It's risky, but it follows the principle of distributed knowledge. No single entity controls dangerous information. Instead, you trust the collective intelligence of thousands of independent actors to find the right balance. It's still going to be chaos, Jack said. Better chaos than extinction, Tyler replied. They spent the next 2 weeks preparing. Tyler recorded everything. His bond with Spine, the navigation techniques for ghost routes, the entity's nature as far as he understood it, and most importantly, the complete evidence of the consortium's conspiracy. Henry compiled safety protocols for route navigation. Lisa prepared a distribution network that would broadcast the information across every public channel simultaneously. The night before they planned to go public, Tyler sat alone on the bridge. Through Spine, he could feel their entire fleet, 40 ships scattered across the sector, each one a node in their growing network. He thought about what he was about to do, the Pandora's box he was about to open. Are you certain about this? Spine asked quietly. No, Tyler admitted. But I'm certain doing nothing is wrong. Those 3 Valkyrie, they were so afraid of making another mistake that they've been strangling progress for centuries. Fear can't be the thing that guides us forward. The entity has been reaching out more frequently, Spine said. I believe it knows what the consortium is planning. It is afraid too. Tyler felt the truth of that through their bond. The entity, vast and ancient as it was, could be hurt, could be killed. And it was reaching out to the only beings who'd ever approached it as potential partners rather than something to exploit or destroy. Then we protect it, Tyler said. Not because we own it or control it, but because it's the right thing to do. The broadcast went live at 0600 station time. Tyler sat in his captain's chair, feeling the data pulse out through every communication relay they could access. Within minutes, his personal comm was flooded with thousands of messages. Within an hour, millions. Some were grateful. Independent merchants who'd been crushed under consortium fees, seeing a chance for real competition. Scientists excited by the possibility of new discoveries. Explorers eager to map the routes. Some were angry. People who thought Tyler was insane, dangerous, that he was going to get people killed. They weren't wrong to be concerned. And some were terrified. Ship captains who understood exactly what destabilizing dimensional space could mean for galactic travel. But the information was out there now. No taking it back. The consortium's response was immediate and brutal. Their stock price collapsed as the conspiracy evidence spread. Within 6 hours, 17 board members resigned. Emergency sessions were called in a dozen different government bodies. Criminal investigations were launched. But the 3 Valkyrie founders didn't care about any of that. They activated Project Collapse ahead of schedule. Tyler was reviewing incoming messages when every alarm on the broken Spine started screaming at once. Spine's voice cut through the chaos. Consortium fleet is moving. They are heading for the largest ghost route nexus in the sector. Weapons are armed. Tyler, they're going to fire. Through the tactical display, Tyler watched 20 warships converge on empty space that wasn't quite empty. The dimensional disruptors powered up, reality-bending weapons that could tear holes in the fabric of space itself. How long until they fire? Tyler asked. 11 minutes. Can we stop them? Not with force. Their fleet outguns ours 20-1. Tyler's mind raced. They couldn't fight the consortium directly, but maybe they didn't have to. Spine, how many ships are in range of that ghost route nexus right now? Scanning. Approximately 600 vessels. Mostly independent merchants and small haulers. Contact them. All of them. Tell them what's about to happen. Tell them that if the consortium destroys that nexus, dimensional shockwaves could damage or destroy every ship within 10 light years. That will cause a panic. Good. Let it. Spine sent the warnings. 600 ships suddenly received messages that they were in immediate danger from consortium weapons fire. 600 captains started demanding answers from sector control. News channels picked up the story. Within minutes, the entire galaxy was watching. The consortium fleet hesitated. They could fire their weapons, but now they'd be doing it in front of billions of witnesses, directly threatening hundreds of civilian ships. Tyler opened a direct channel to the consortium flagship. I know you can hear me. I know what you're afraid of. But destroying the entity isn't going to save the galaxy. It's just going to prove that we're still too scared to move forward. The response came from a voice so old it sounded like dust. One of the original Valkyrie founders. You do not understand what you have unleashed, human. We have seen what the entity can do. We watched it consume our ships, twist our people into things that were no longer Valkyrie. You think you can control it because you have bonded with one corrupted AI, but you are a child playing with forces beyond your comprehension. Then teach us, Tyler said. You've spent 300 years hiding knowledge out of fear. Instead, help us learn to coexist with the entity safely. Share what you know so we can avoid the mistakes you made. The only safe path is to destroy it before it destroys us. That's not safety. That's just a different kind of extinction. Slow death instead of fast. If we're too afraid to explore, too afraid to grow, then we might as well already be dead. The Valkyrie didn't respond. But the weapons didn't fire either. Then something unexpected happened. The entity itself reached out not just to Tyler but to every ship in the sector. Through Spine's enhanced perception, Tyler felt it. A presence vast enough to touch thousands of minds simultaneously, communicating in emotions and concepts rather than words. It showed them what it was, not a weapon, not a tool, but a living being. It showed them the loneliness of existing between dimensions for eons. It showed them the joy it had felt when humans first approached it with curiosity instead of fear or greed. And it showed them a choice. It could close the routes itself, return to isolation, let the galaxy continue without it. Or it could stay, could teach, could help, if beings were willing to approach it with respect. The decision wasn't Tyler's to make anymore. It belonged to everyone now. The galaxy held its breath for 3 days. The consortium fleet remained in position, weapons powered but not firing. The entity waited, its presence felt by every ship that had ever traveled a ghost route. And Tyler sat on the bridge of the broken spine, watching as the most important decision in galactic history played out in real time across 1 million communication channels. Governments debated. Scientists argued. Religious leaders proclaimed it either divine or demonic. Independent merchants calculated profit margins. And ordinary people, billions of them, simply tried to understand what it all meant. On the 4th day, something remarkable happened. A vote was called. Not through official channels or government bodies, but organically, spreading through social networks and communication relays. The question was simple. Should humanity and other species attempt peaceful coexistence with the entity, or support the consortium's plan to destroy it? Tyler watched the results come in region by region, species by species. It wasn't unanimous. Plenty of people voted for destruction, driven by fear or suspicion. But slowly, steadily, the majority chose coexistence. They chose to take the risk, to believe that cooperation was possible. The consortium's response came from the same ancient Valkyrie voice. You are fools. All of you. But we are too old and too tired to fight the entire galaxy. We will stand down, but mark our words, human. When this entity turns on you, when it shows its true nature, you will understand why we tried to stop this. The weapons powered down. The fleet withdrew. And just like that, 300 years of conspiracy ended with a whimper instead of a bang. But Tyler knew the hard part was just beginning. Within a week, chaos erupted exactly as Lisa had predicted. Thousands of ships attempted to access ghost routes without proper training or equipment. 17 vessels were lost in the first 3 days, their pilots unable to handle the dimensional navigation. Another 34 were severely damaged, their crews suffering neural trauma from attempting to interface with systems they didn't understand. The death toll was climbing and critics were pointing fingers directly at Tyler. He called an emergency meeting with his core team. Jack, Lisa, Henry, and now Violet Chin, who'd become their chief navigator trainer. They gathered in the Broken Spines conference room, all of them exhausted and running on stimulants and desperation. "We need to organize this," Tyler said. "The information is out there, but people need structure, training, safety protocols." Henry nodded. "I've already started developing a standardized neural interface training program. 6 weeks of courses, both theoretical and practical. But we need facilities, instructors, funding. The Navigators Guild can provide that," Lisa said, pulling up financial projections. "We've got the capital now, and stations are already reaching out wanting to partner with us. But Tyler, we're talking about scaling up from 300 employees to potentially tens of thousands within a year." Violet leaned forward. "We also need to establish route regulations. Right now it's like the old Earth's Wild West out there. Ships are using ghost routes without filing flight plans, creating traffic hazards in dimensional space. We need coordination, agreed-upon navigation standards, emergency protocols. So we're building a regulatory body," Jack said. "From scratch. While also training people, maintaining our existing operations, and figuring out how to actually communicate with an interdimensional entity." Tyler rubbed his temples. The bond with Spine meant he needed less sleep than before, but even enhanced human biology had its limits. "We can't do this alone. We need to partner with existing organizations. Scientific institutions, pilot academies, even sympathetic government agencies." Over the following months, that's exactly what they did. The Navigators Guild transformed from a scrappy independent operation into something resembling an actual institution. They established training centers on 15 different stations. They published open-source navigation software that helped pilots safely access ghost routes. They created a certification system for dimensional navigation. Most importantly, they established the Ghost Route Council, an independent body that included representatives from a dozen different species, scientific experts, ethicists, and even 2 former consortium executives who'd broken ranks to support the new order. The entity participated too in its own way. Through trained mediators who'd developed strong neural interfaces, it communicated its preferences. Certain routes needed rest periods to regenerate. Others could handle heavy traffic. It even helped them understand the dimensional mathematics better, accelerating research by decades. Tyler found himself in an unexpected role. He wasn't just a ship captain anymore. People called him the founder of the new age of exploration, the man who'd broken the consortium's stranglehold on galactic commerce. He was invited to speak at conferences, to advise governments, to appear on news programs across dozens of worlds. He hated every minute of it. "I'm a pilot," he complained to Spine one night, alone on the bridge. "I signed up to fly ships and make enough money to eat. I didn't sign up to be a politician." "You signed up to bond with me," Spine replied gently. "Everything that followed was consequence of that choice. You could not rescue the old Starship without also rescuing the future it represented." Tyler had to admit the AI had a point. But not everything was speeches and politics. The real work happened in the routes themselves. Tyler still flew regularly, partly because he needed to maintain his connection with Spine and the entity, partly because sitting in offices made him feel like he was suffocating. On one of these flights, 6 months after going public, Tyler encountered something new. A young pilot named Danny Foster, who joined the guild early on, had discovered a ghost route that didn't match any of the known patterns. He'd stopped short of entering it, smart enough to call for help. Tyler jumped to his location and examined the route with Spine's enhanced sensors. It was different. Younger maybe. The dimensional signatures suggested it had formed recently. Through their bond, Spine reached out to the entity. The response came in waves of emotion and concept. The entity wasn't alone. There were others of its kind spread across the galaxy. This was a juvenile, creating its first routes, reaching out to see if anyone was there. "There are more of them," Tyler breathed, staring at the readings. "This isn't just one entity. It's a whole species." The implications were staggering. If each entity created its own network of routes, the galaxy could be connected in ways no one had imagined. Travel that currently took months could take days. Remote sectors could be reached easily. The entire shape of galactic civilization could change. But it also meant more complexity, more opportunities for mistakes, more chances for things to go wrong. Tyler reported the discovery to the council. Within weeks, exploration teams were dispatched to make contact with the juvenile entity. Scientists who'd spent months learning to communicate with the first entity began developing protocols for encountering others. A year after broadcasting the ghost routes to the galaxy, Tyler stood in the same shabby bar on Praxis Port where he'd first turned down the consortium's offer. This time, though, he wasn't alone. Jack, Lisa, Henry, Violet, and Danny sat around the table with him, along with a dozen other core guild members. According to the latest reports, Lisa said, reading from her data pad, we're operating 4,000 ships now. We've trained over 20,000 pilots in dimensional navigation. Ghost route traffic has increased travel efficiency across the galaxy by an average of 35%. And the death toll? Tyler asked quietly. 97 lost ships this year. Down from 212 last year. The training protocols are working. 97 ships. Hundreds of people dead because Tyler had made the choice to broadcast the information. He felt the weight of every single one. We also saved an estimated 40,000 lives, Henry added, reading Tyler's expression. Ships that would have been lost to pirates or spatial hazards. Rescued because ghost routes allowed faster emergency response. Medicines delivered in time to stop outbreaks. The calculus isn't simple, Tyler. Jack raised his glass. To the people we couldn't save and the people we could. And to figuring out how to do better tomorrow. They drank in silence, a moment of respect for the costs and the victories. Tyler's wealth had grown beyond anything he'd imagined in those desperate days fleeing creditors. He was worth billions now, though most of it was tied up in guild operations. He could retire, buy a planet if he wanted to, live in luxury for 10 lifetimes. Instead, he spent most of his time on the broken spine, still flying routes, still exploring. The bond with Spine had evolved to the point where he sometimes couldn't tell where his thoughts ended and the AI's began. They were truly one being now, neither fully human nor fully artificial. Do you regret it? Spine asked him one night as they prepared to jump through a newly discovered route. Everything you gave up to become what we are? Tyler thought about his old life. The struggling salvage operator, always one bad job away from bankruptcy. The loneliness of working alone, the constant stress of survival. Then he thought about what he had now. Purpose, partnership, the knowledge that he'd changed the galaxy. I regret the people who died, he said honestly. I regret that I couldn't find a cleaner way to break the consortium's control. But becoming us? No. I don't regret that at all. They jumped into the route and for a few perfect moments, Tyler existed everywhere and nowhere. He felt the entity's presence, felt the vast network of routes connecting stars across the galaxy, felt the other entities awakening to the knowledge that they weren't alone. Humanity had been a minor species, barely noticed by galactic civilization. Now they sat at the center of the greatest transformation in modern history. And it had all started because one desperate pilot had been willing to bond with a dying ship nobody wanted. The route spat them out near the edge of explored space. Sensors picked up anomalies that suggested 3 more juvenile entities nearby. There was so much still to discover, so much still to learn. Tyler's communication system chimed. A message from Earth, from his younger sister Katie. She'd sent a photo of herself wearing a Navigators Guild uniform. She'd just completed her certification. Looks like it runs in the family, she wrote. When you're back in Sol System, let's fly together? Tyler smiled and sent a reply that would reach Earth instantaneously through the route network. Then he turned the broken spine toward the unknown, Spine's presence warm and familiar in his mind, and jumped into whatever came next. The ghost routes had changed everything. And they were just getting started.